across to SABC News reporter Abra Babia. Abra, how are preparations looking for that statement taking place today?
Very good morning to you, Naledi, and of course to our viewers. On the agenda, we say welcome to Cape Town, welcome to Parliament, welcome to the medium-term budget policy statement, which is what the Finance Minister will be delivering at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Of course, we're not going to be waiting until then to bring you everything that's happening. We are going to be starting off right now, and we're going to be kicking off with expectations from the different political parties in Parliament. Of course, we are broadcasting from the City Hall, which, as you know, has been designated as part of the parliamentary precinct as a result of the 2022 fire. But for all intents and purposes, this is Parliament, and I have the MP for the Democratic Alliance, the party's man on all things finance, Mr. Dion George. Sir, thank you so much for speaking to us today. First of all, let's kick off with the party's long list of concerns about the state of our economy at the moment.
Well, the big question here is, what is the minister going to do to alleviate the plight of the most vulnerable South Africans? I mean, government has not responded to the cost of living crisis, and our view is that government has not responded because it simply does not care. So today is the opportunity for the minister to show how government does in fact care and to do several things that are required to grow our economy. And we do believe that there are things that can happen in the immediate term. So there are measures that can be implemented immediately to relieve the cost of living crisis. For example, to slash tax and levies on fuel, and also to expand the zero VAT rated basket of food. That is very much doable. But crucially, our economy needs to grow. So the government needs to look at 5 key policy areas. Most importantly is, how do we grow our economy in such a way that will actually create sustainable jobs? And that is very much doable if we attract foreign and domestic investments. Secondly, we need to look at the rolling blackouts. I mean, the never-ending blackouts is crippling our business, and that's actually fueling the cost of living crisis. So what is government's plan on resolving the energy crisis? And then, of course, government is overspending. It is likely to run out of money by the end of December, not March next year, as the minister said, and that's why the minister's been talking about cutting back expenditure. We agree it needs to be cut back, but it needs to be cut back in the right places. So no more bailouts to the state-owned enterprises, and cut the bloated public sector wage bill, especially on the millionaire managers. So that's very important stuff for us to see today. Also, what measures is the minister going to actually put in place from the ANC government to alleviate the plight of the most vulnerable South Africans? So are we going to see the introduction of a basic income grant? Are we going to see the extension of the social relief of distress grant? Because we absolutely support that. And also, what about the immediate things, such as the fuel price and the cost of food? So we want to see interventions there. Very importantly, they can be done right now if government picks the right policies and spends in the right way. And then also, very importantly, we were grey listed in February. And so there's been no progress on that. So the minister needs to give us an indication of how he's going to bolster the judiciary, because that's where the problem lies. The financial regulations are there, but we're not able, apparently, to prosecute the financial criminals that are corrupting our economy, and then they're not held to account, and that's why we were grey listed. So there needs to be more money for the National Prosecuting Authority. We think that at least 1.8 billion rand extra could be put onto the National Prosecuting Authority if government never wasted it in places that it didn't need to. For example, on the blue light brigades for politicians for protection that they don't need. So government needs to fundamentally change its model. Government's in the wrong place in our economy. It's at the center, but it is incapable, it is incompetent, it's corrupt. What we need to do is get government out of the way and let entrepreneurs and business flourish, because that's how our economy is going to grow. If the economy grows, you get enough revenue. Because what's going to happen is government does not get enough revenue now because the economy did not grow as projected in February, which means there's not enough money. And that is not that is the only fault where that comes from is government. They did not project properly, and the economy didn't grow. So that's why they're running out of money. It's got nothing else to do with anything. Also, another situation is that the Reserve Bank has got a reserve. They're now looking at potentially raiding that reserve. And that, of course, is something fundamentally problematic, because it's a risk reserve. And if you spend the risk reserve, what happens when a problem does in fact arise? And so that's what it's for. So government is increasingly desperate. We look with great interest to see what the minister is going to say, specifically to those battling South African households. What is the ANC government going to do to make life easier for people who are battling every day to put enough food on the table, where 81% of households are skipping at least one meal a day because they simply can't afford to buy food?
Mr. George, thank you so much for your time. We'll catch up with you later on. That was Dion George of the Democratic Alliance, of course, sharing the party's views on the state of the economy. I'm now going to be speaking with Mr. Joe Maswangane, who is the chairperson of the Finance Committee in Parliament and, of course, an ANC member. Chair, thank you for speaking to us today. So you know the opposition parties have a lot to say about the expectations of today and the state of our economy. Let me first ask you about the most important thing that's bothering all South Africans, I assume, is the high cost of living and how it's impacting everybody. What can the minister say or do to make life easier for South Africans today?
Thanks very much. Let's first acknowledge that in terms of Census 22 report, there is a lot of improvement on the lives of our people. High life expectancy, sanitation has improved, formal dwellings have improved, piped water, access to electricity. These are the improvements that we have to acknowledge from 1994 up to where we are. Of course, we have got serious challenge when it comes to economic growth. And the minister has been, with his collective in government, attending to the issue of ERRP, Economic Recovery and Reconstruction Program. And if you remember, the president also on Monday went into details as to what is it that government is going to do in terms of economic recovery. So the minister will have to go into details about what the president has spoken about on Monday, because the president is not a minister, he can't deal with specifics. But he has given a line of march that this is what he expects. So we expect that the minister today will outline programs that will deal with unemployment, one is a special youth unemployment, which is quite very high, poverty and inequality. And the other issue that you will have to come out clear, because there's a bit of confusion out there, is the issue of cost-cutting measures, which others call it austerity measures, but we call it cost-cutting. So it must come out very clear that in terms of making sure that we live within what we have in terms of the budget, this is what government is going to do, and these are the measures that the national, provincial and local governments are going to follow to make sure that they spend within the budget that they have.
Sir, just back to cost-cutting measures, I know that political parties have expressed concern when the president announced these cost-cutting measures. How will this impact on service delivery? How will it impact on the department's ability to do their jobs and to deliver the services? Will there be an impact?
We can't expect an ANC minister to go into cost-cutting measures when it comes to infrastructure, for instance. There will never be a cost-cutting measure on water, electricity. We have got a challenge now with the Transnet, for instance. The minister will have to come out clear and say, this is how we are going to bail out Transnet. Transnet and Eskom are too big to fail. If we have got those two not functioning very well, they are having a serious impact on the economy. Transnet has requested the Minister of Finance to intervene in terms of budget, the debt that they have. I think he's going to say something. He will have to talk about the issue of freight, about the issue of ports. These are very important issues. So there are measures where the minister can say we are cutting on infrastructure. There are issues that are not very critical. I saw in his memo that he has issued to municipalities and provincial and national government departments about the trips, about conferences and a whole range of other issues. I think on those ones, he will have to make sure that there are cost-cutting measures, but not on the essential services.
Chair, I'm going to change the topic completely. I'm looking at your scarf. It feels like 30 degrees in Cape Town and you're wearing your Springbok scarf with pride today. Yes. We're all going to be seeing them on Friday. You will be there as well?
Yes. The Bokke have done us proud by winning the World Cup. Now South Africa has got 4 World Cups that we have won. So we are very happy about what the boys have done in France. And we must go all out as South Africans. Because we can't always not be happy. We are worried about the budget, we are worried about this. But if we have done so well, like what the Bokke have done, we must be dressed like this throughout until the 15th of January. I will be dressed like this.
Thank you so much for your time, Chair. That's the Chair reminding us that we do have something to be happy about. We do have something to look forward to, of course, but also reminding us exactly that government is aware of the state of the economy and that the Minister only has so much room in which to move.